Welcome to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary Ameneth. As you know, I like to do interesting North Dakota people and do interviews. And today we're going to be talking to Clint Severson, who Minot boy that ended up in wine country and part of a vineyard. We'll let him tell his whole story. I don't know all the details, but I happen to be drinking a glass of his wine, read the back bottle, and it talked about a couple cowboys who raised the grapes and had relation to this wine, this Pinot Noir I was drinking. So we're going to talk to Clint Severson this morning about how he got in the wine business. So Clint, welcome to Open Range.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely. Yeah.
So Clint, before I always get started, I always like our viewers on Open Range, you get to know who we're going to be talking to for the next hour here. So before we dig into wine and how you got in the wine business, tell us a little bit about yourself, growing up in Minot and who you are and your family, so we just kind of know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Minot. I went to Longfellow Grade School, Eric Ramstead Junior High, Minot High School, and then Minot State University. So I went, through the whole process in Minot. And when I finished the university, which was in 1973, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. But the problem was there wasn't that much opportunity for me in North Dakota. So I needed to go find the opportunity. So I bought myself a Chevy van, rigged it all up so I could live in it. And I started traveling around the country looking for opportunity. And when I hit the San Francisco Bay Area, I was there for about 2 weeks. Technically, I was homeless, even though one of my cousin's friends let me hang out at her apartment for a while. I had 3 job offers. And it was kind of Silicon Valley before it was Silicon Valley.
So Clint, you said you were looking for opportunity, you knew what you wanted to do. So is this you just had this entrepreneurial spirit you wanted to do and you weren't quite sure what it was? Or did you have something you're locked in on?
Yeah, no, I had done some research and at the local library to find out what industries were going to be the fastest growing industries over the next 20 years. And one of them was healthcare. So I figured, okay, well, healthcare, okay, maybe I could get a job with healthcare. And I knew someday I wanted to run my own company. So I figured, well, if I could get a job with a big, large organization in the healthcare industry that's growing fast, that would be ideal. And sure enough, I got the opportunity to join Dow Chemicals Health and Consumer Products Division. And in that Health and Consumer Products Division was the diagnostic group. And so I joined as a sales guy in the San Francisco Bay Area for Dow Diagnostics. And that's how I got the start. Fantastic company, great training, and excellent. So that was my start. Yeah.
So you did that when you got out to San Francisco. You ended up, working for Dow. And so how old are you when this is? Are you in your early 20s?
25.
25 years old. You lived in San Francisco, you're 25 years old. And so how did you find it? I mean, because San Francisco in the early 70s had to be a very interesting place.
Yeah, I know it was. So, so a friend of mine had some relatives out here. So that was my first connection why I wanted to try to plant my stake here. But I traveled to Southern California first. I spent a week in San Diego interviewing for jobs, looking for opportunity. I didn't spend any time in Los Angeles. It was just too crowded and too smoggy. So I'd been in Phoenix, I'd been in Albuquerque, I'd been in Houston, I'd been in, Florida as well, Orlando. I spent some time in Orlando interviewing for jobs. So I'd spent time, all across the country for, like I said, 3 months. And I didn't have any kind of luck like I had in San Francisco. I mean, I had job interviews. I mean, there was just a lot of demand for people that had a track record. And I got exactly what I wanted.
Clint, I find that interesting. I had a similar experience. Mine is in the late 90s. I was doing a lot of tech, had 1 million plus miles in airplanes. And, back in those days, Silicon Valley was going, and if you had a 10-slide PowerPoint and a business model that made some sense, you could raise $3 to $5 million with a $20 million valuation. And so I ended up going out there in the late 90s before the internet melted down and with the same type of hope and dreams of even though I was, had a couple boys and I was in my late 30s, probably almost pushing 40 by this time. I was probably in my 40s. Ended up moving into Orinda, working downtown San Francisco, and did a artificial intelligence startup. And I was way ahead of our time in the late 90s, but I loved the Bay Area. We lived in Orinda, and I loved taking the BART downtown. And so you spent most of your life in that area then after you left Minot.
I did. Yeah, no, I did. I moved to Los Gatos, California, and traveled around Northern California, working my territory for about 5 years. And then I realized, you know what? To move up in Dow Chemical, I needed to either move to Indianapolis, Indiana, where the Health and Consumer Products Division was located, or Midland, Michigan. And I decided I did not want to go to Midland or Indianapolis. So after 5 years, I decided, you know what? If I'm going to control my own destiny here, I'm going to need a job with a California-based company, because I wasn't interested in leaving. So I started hunting around, and sure enough, this headhunter called me and said, "Hey, you're a good candidate. Let me help you find a spot, huh?" And so I gave him a list of companies, and bingo, pretty soon I had an interview with a California-based company, and that was kind of the start of my interest in getting into the wine business, because that particular company was a joint venture between Syntex, which was a big pharmaceutical company, and Varian, which is a big electronics company. And so the company is called SIVA, S-Y for Syntex, V-A for Varian. And the founders of Syntex were very famous guys. The Syntex invented the birth control pill, and it was a very scientific company. One of the CEOs was a professor at Stanford. And so it was a great opportunity to join a small division of a larger company. And the founders of Syntex, a couple of the founders had wineries. And so that was my first inkling that, hey, you know what? These very successful people are in the wine business. Maybe that's something I ought to take a look at as well.
So Clint, let me ask you a question about wine. So you're a North Dakota kid from Minot. Most guys from Minot are beer drinkers. So other than the business opportunity, were you a wine drinker?
I wasn't a wine drinker until I came to California, And I went tasting in Sonoma and Napa County, and I didn't know anything about wine, We drank Napa Rosé with tacos in Minot. And so I knew nothing about it, but I got very interested in it as you pass through the tasting rooms and listen to the stories. And of course, the lifestyle, the wine and food lifestyle is a fantastic lifestyle. Yeah, it's great. And so I started to research all these successful people in Silicon Valley, and, a bunch of them were in the wine business. So I figured, you know what? Maybe I ought to have a winery. If I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, I should probably have my own, well, not maybe a winery, but maybe a vineyard, So that's how it all started.
So Clint, you're in your 30 years old, in your 30s or something like that, and you decide you want to be in the wine business. Talk to us. We only got a couple of minutes before the break, so I just want to set the stage for what we're going to dig into in the next segment, because how do you get to the wine business?
Yeah, okay, so I had stayed in this hotel in Santa Rosa, which is in Sonoma County, and I got a bunch of credits, for this free nights in the hotel. So over a 4th of July weekend, I decided I'm going to go up and I'm going to spend some time in Sonoma County and maybe look for some land to put a vineyard in, And so that's what I did. Then I traveled around talking to realtors. I mean, I'm 30 years old. Most of them just blew me off. But I did find a realtor, a lady who is brand new in the business, who said, look, I'm brand new in the business here. So if you're really serious about buying some land for a vineyard, I'm willing to help you, but please don't waste my time. And I said, again, let me give you my specifications here. And so I gave her the specifications, and bingo, a couple of weeks later, she called me up and said, I got 3 properties that meet your specifications and your price range. And so, so then my parents had come to California as well. So I called my folks up and said, hey, look, I'm going up to Sonoma County to buy myself a vineyard. You want to come along? And they said, that is the dumbest thing. That is the dumbest thing you've ever come up with. I said, well, I'm leaving at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and if you want to come, you're welcome. Sure enough, here they showed up, and away we went. And and so we looked at the 3 properties, And one of them actually met the criteria absolutely perfect, but it was a mess. It had an old Quonset hut on it. It had car bodies all over the place. There was a tenant living on it, and it was a mess. And but it was an ideal one to make a proposal on because the owner, of course, wanted to move the other properties he had, and so getting rid of this derelict property would be a big advantage for him. And so now another upside with that property was right across the street from Deloche Wineries, And Deloche Wineries was pretty new back then. And he had built a big, beautiful winery right next door. So I figured, hey, maybe I could do a deal with Mr. Deloche at the same time. And so we made an offer and the guy took it, And now we're on the way. Away we go.
So, Clint, I think that's fascinating that you find this land that you buy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and the whole idea of, I mean, I'll just have to say, about 10 years ago, I decided I was going to do the same thing, and a friend in Buffalo, New York said, hey, I've been hearing about Oregon wines, and if you go out there, you can get a pretty good deal yet. So I decided, I got relatives out there. I go see my sister and my brother-in-law, and I went around the vineyards, talked to them, found some that were for sale. And after I talked to those vineyards, I go, man, you're a farmer. I'm not a farmer. This is way over my head. And I'm too old to be doing this. I said, no, not going to work for me. So I'm going to hear about your story, how you became a vineyard farmer, if you will. So we've been talking to Clint Severson, former from Minot, North Dakota, but a Sonoma County guy. I'm your host, Gary Emmett. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Corey Heppola, and a long time ago, I left my small town for a big city. Now, I wonder, what would it be like to move rural?
Just because we're small doesn't mean we can't have nice things.
So, I'm traveling to different small towns across the Midwest to find out.
It's like every year in the spring, there's always like a revitalization of just excitement.
This is my town.
Oh, jeez!
Sunday night, 6:30 on Beck TV.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
Let's be frank, it's a pain to be without your vehicle after an accident. That's why you should take it to Jerome's Collision Center. Our shop is supersized and we have the qualified staff to fill it up and work on your vehicle, step by step, piece by piece, in crazy fast time without sacrificing quality. When you need us, we'll turn your bad experience into a good one. We're Jerome's Collision Center and we're the best at what we do.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
Hello, friends. This is Culture Crossroads. Join me, Andrew Southbridge, and my co-hosts, R.C. Williams and Juliana Ormond, as we tackle the issues shaping America. From politics to pop culture, to faith, freedom, family, and the future. From a faith-based conservative perspective that you won't get anywhere else. We stand at the intersection of faith and freedom. This is Culture Crossroads. Culture Crossroads. Sundays at 5 p.m. Central on Beck TV.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary. I'm going to talk to Clint Severson, a winemaker, a vineyard owner, and out of not Silicon Valley, out of Sonoma County. But came across, what happened is I drink a lot of wine, and I had bought this bottle of Pinot Noir, came in the mail, and it said on the back after I was drinking. In fact, I was having dinner at someone's house. I brought it by, and they actually read it first before I did. And here's what it says: planted by North Dakota born father and son cowboys, Howard and Clint Severson, in the cool Olivet Road area of Russian River. This Pinot Noir was fermented and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to track this guy down. I need to do a show on this guy because I'm familiar with Hook and Ladder, and here you are, Clint. And so that's how we got connected. I never, just a week ago, I tracked you down and talked to your nephew. And I drank your wine before because I have a restaurant. I used to have a restaurant in Phoenix, and you did a wine tasting with Hook and Ladder. I want to dig into the name of that a little bit, but I want to come back to this. I wanted the viewers to get, why is Gary talking about wine? Well, it's a very interesting story, and plus I'm going to possibly be doing a cooking show with some wine tasting in the future on Open Range, and we'll kind of see where that goes. But so Clint, you found this land that met your criteria. Talk to us a little bit about it, because had you farmed before? Did you know anything about grapes or any of that?
So I knew nothing about grapes, okay, but in North Dakota, we did have a family farm. And my uncle, he was responsible for maintaining the family farm. And of course, all of us were required to do our duty as well. So every summer, off to the farm I would go and do the haying and the combining and the summer following and all the things that you do on a farm. And so I had some familiarity with farming, but I knew nothing about grapes, absolutely nothing about grapes. But I had the confidence that I could figure it out. Okay, so the first step, of course, is getting the land, okay? Then the next step is when you know what you don't know, you find somebody that can help you, right? So absolutely. I found, so I did some networking, and I found a consultant, okay, that helps guys like me put their vineyard in. And so I called this consultant fellow, and we set up a meeting. And he happened to be friends with Cecil Deloche, who was my neighbor right next door. And he said, okay, here's what I would recommend you do, okay? You do your research, okay, on what you think is going to be best variety for your area. And then once you figure out what you want to plant, okay, then I'll hook you up with Cecil Deloche, and maybe you guys can work out a deal where he can help you plant your vineyard. And then you can pay him a little bit for the work that he does. And so I thought, well, that's a great idea. So I decided to hook up with the county agent, the Sonoma County agent. And of course, you know what a county agent is, Gary.
My father-in-law was a county agent, and he spent his career, and then he became a district director. So I have a lot of county agent stories, but none about grapes.
Right. Okay. So I find the county agent, okay, in Santa Rosa. I show up at his office. He said, what is your parcel number? And I gave him the parcel number, and he has all these big, huge white papers stacked up in the back. And he goes through and he pulls it out, and he said, aha, you got a great spot there, huh? You got a great spot. So where you're at, what would grow high quality, okay, would be number one, Gewürztraminer would be the best. You would have the top Gewürztraminer. Number two, Sauvignon Blanc, and number three, Chardonnay. Those would be your best if you went with the whites. And then, of course, if you're going with the reds, the Pinot Noir would be the best. And so I said, okay, so the highest quality would be the Gewürztraminer. That would be the best, man. Your Gewürztraminer would be the best. So I said, okay, we're going to go with that. We're going to go with the Gewürztraminer. And so, so I checked with Cecil Deloche, said, hey, Cecil, you got any need for a Gewürztraminer? He said, I sure do. I want to add Gewürztraminer to our repertoire here at Deloche Vineyards. And so, so we made the decision. Gewürztraminer is where it is. And now we got to figure out how we going to execute on this great plan. And of course, we had no idea how hard it was going to be. We had no idea. So, we had this old Quonset hut on the property. We had car bodies all over the place. We had kind of a garage made up of scrap metal and a tenant. Okay, so the tenant, of course, wanted to stay, And he thought when that property is sold, they're going to kick me out right away. So I said, look, Joe, I'm not going to kick you out right away. I'm going to give you a year. Okay, I'm not going to raise your rent, but I want you to clean this place up, huh? I want the car bodies gone. I want the junk gone. And if you meet that criteria, you can stay for at least another year, maybe a little bit longer, huh? And so I had to go up there and monitor the progress, right? Yeah.
And of course, you got a full-time job yet. You're still doing.
I'm a sales guy, man. Yes.
So you got to pay the bills by selling something and stay focused and not let your employer know you're building this vineyard. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so now we also needed to finance this development, huh? So it was going to be about $40,000 to put these grapes in. And so we go to production credit, huh? You know what production credit is?
Yep, PCA. So let me ask you a question. So how much land did you have, and can you tell us about what you paid for it to give a perspective? So this is what year, 1978 or so?
1978, yeah.
1978.
And so we had 9.2 acres, and we paid $60,000. List price was 75. We said, I'll give you 60.
So you bought almost 10 acres in Sonoma County. I don't want to ask what that's worth today, but we'll come back to another discussion. But so anyway, so you buy it for $60,000. You got junk on it, but 9 acres. Okay, go ahead.
Almost, yeah, 9.2. And so anyway, so now we go to production credit, okay, to get a farm loan, a crop loan. Fundamentally, it's a crop loan. And so the guy takes all of our information. And then about a week later, he calls me up and said, you have been rejected. What? Rejected? Why was I rejected? Well, we don't like outsiders coming here investing in property. We want people that live here to invest. So we didn't reject you because of your finances. We rejected you because where you live, Los Gatos, California. And I said, well, that's not legal, buddy. You can't do that, huh? And so, well, let me rethink it then. And they rethought it and said, okay, no problem. Okay, you got the loan. So we got our $40,000 production credit loan, and now we're ready to go. And so, so the first year, 1979, is preparation. You've got to rip the ground 3 feet down, and then we added a product that would kill oak root fungus. So we fumigated the land, and then you got to put that in there, and then you got to cover it with plastic. You got to cover it with plastic. And then, then the next year, you take the plastic off, and you got to plant a bunch of grass to suck all the moisture out of the land because you're going to get ready to plant the vineyard. And then you got to put the stakes in, then you got to drill the holes. Now we're talking about 6,000 vines. Huh? You got to order the vines.
And so 6,000 vines, and how many acres initially for those 6,000 vines of that 9.2 did you plant?
8.
8 acres. Okay.
8 acres.
So you got your tenant living on the other 1.2, and he obviously cleaned everything up for you. Did you get to keep the money for the scrap metal, or did he keep it? I'm kidding.
No,
so go ahead.
Just get rid of it. Okay, but again, now we're going to get ready, to put the vineyard in. We had a well there, but the pump wasn't sufficient, so we needed to put in a new pump. And now we're going to interrupt the water supply for the house. So actually, the fellow's name was Max. So Max, you got to go, Max. You got to go. Your year is up. You got to go. And of course, Max, he didn't want to go, so I had to evict Max. And eventually, Max left. But then I had this Quonset hut sitting there. And this Quonset hut was probably 2,000 square feet. And it was right in the middle of where we're going to do a bunch of work. It was right in there. So I figured, how am I going to get rid of this Quonset hut? Okay. And I asked a bunch of people, and they said, oh, it's going to cost a lot of money to get rid of this thing. So I decided what I'd do is I put an ad in the paper. 1 Quonset hut for sale. Best offer over $1. You haul away. Okay. And I got 3 calls within a day. And they all offered me $1, okay? But the fellow that I picked was a contractor, and he had a cattle ranch in Nevada. And in the wintertime, he needed a facility to put his hay in, okay? So the cattle would have something to eat in the wintertime. And so a Quonset hut was a perfect option for that. So And because he was a contractor, I knew he could fulfill the obligation of getting that thing out of there. So yeah, the guy did a fantastic job. He took the Quonset hut out and he paid me $1 to do it, huh? Yeah. Now the
And you
Quonset
didn't spend all that money. That's awesome. So you didn't have to spend all that money out of your pocket. You could save it to buy those 6,000 grape plants. All right.
That's right, yeah. Okay, so now the first step is you put the grape stakes in, okay? Well, first step is you lay out the vineyard, huh? With 2 poles and a chain with little bolts in the chain where the grapes go, and then you use a swizzle stick, like a cocktail swizzle stick, and you put it in the ground, huh? And so we're out there with Cecil and his wife and Cecil's son, and we lay out the whole vineyard, put the swizzle sticks in. Then we buy the grapevines or the grape stakes, and we actually hired some vineyard workers to help us with the grape stakes because you're talking 6,000 grape stakes. It's a lot of work. You lay all the grape stakes on there, and then you hire a contractor to come in and drill the holes. Huh? So now we got to drill 6,000 holes. So he drills all the holes. Okay, now we're talking, we're in April, first part of May, and now we're going to get ready to plant the vineyard. So we ordered the grapevines a year in advance. And so now we have the grapevines, little green grower grapevines delivered to us, and we start planting. Okay.
So Clint, we're going to go to the break, and I want to pick up right where you're at with that in a few seconds.
Okay.
So we've been talking to Clint Severson about his wine, his vineyard in Sonoma County. I'm your host, Gary Emmett. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Base Flug Trailers of Dickinson is a family-owned dealer with expert staff that know their products front to back. We stock over 150 units of all types and can custom order a trailer with the unique features and capabilities you require for brands you can trust. Our experienced service team is the reason we're also the best place to have your trailer customized or repaired. Count on Base Flug Trailers of Dickinson to keep you hauling.
Come on in and experience small-town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and the team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. The Set Motors, where our customers send their friends.
We're the ladies of Another View. Join us at 9 a.m. weekday mornings.
We'll discuss issues you care about from local and national perspectives.
You'll hear unique stories from fellow North Dakotans, plus topics in the national spotlight.
Start your day off right with Ladies of Another View.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Beck TV and online at beck.news.
Buffalo Gypsy Boutique of Mandan is where classy meets Wild West. Our clothing, decor, and gifts range from sophisticated boho style to quirky and antique. And we have the whole family covered, right down to the little ones. We're home to exclusive brands such as Scully, Old Gringo, and Tanner Mark Leather. And we proudly feature American-made jewelry, artwork, and genuine Kimes denim. Find Buffalo Gypsy classing up the corner of 1st and Main in Mandan.
We are the St. Mary Sisters. We are building a new facility here in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the sake of training young women to be courageous teachers in this state. The sisters will educate the younger generation to be fully alive through truth and discipline. The sisters' life of devotion and joy will make a positive difference in your community. Check out what we're up to, see what's going on, and join our mission to make a difference in the lives of the children of North Dakota.
We've all heard the phrase, that kind of thing doesn't happen in our town. But here on Midwest Murder True Crime Stories, we will shatter that false reality.
In fact, it happens more often than we know.
And sometimes the details are lost in the back pages of newspapers,
forgotten on our news channels, and eventually erased over time.
We're here to talk about murder, diving into some of the most controversial cases in Midwest history.
This show will not shy away from the morbid details of these horrific events and the often ugly truths behind them.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary Emmett, talking to Clint Severson, who actually made this great bottle of wine that I have, and I should have brought a wine glass so I could tell you what it's going to be like. It's a great Pinot Noir, but we'll do it another day. I'm going to get his nephew Eric to do a virtual wine tasting with me in the future on this show. So Clint, back to your story. You got the little plants, the Gewürzen. I can't even say the name. It's yep. And is that kind of a German? That's kind of a German grape, isn't it? Typically German wine.
It's a spicy wine, okay, that can be made sweet or dry.
Okay.
And it's good with pork. It's good with turkey. It's good with chicken. And yeah.
Okay. So you got 6,000 plants. You hire a contractor, going to start drilling the holes. How deep are they having to drill the holes, and how big are those plants? Because I had SCS put in a bunch of trees for me. You know, and when they put those things in, it looked like I can't tell the tree from the grass. You know what? It's 2 years later, now they're this tall. So things do grow in this country as it does in Sonoma.
Like
so little
green growers. And they drill the holes about, I'd say, 2 feet deep. And then so the grapes are, the varietal is grafted onto a rootstock. So you have to be very careful that you don't plant the graft in the ground, huh? You have to make sure the graft is above the ground. And and then of course we had set up the irrigation system as well. We did that ahead of time. And so now we're out there planting those little green growers, and we got myself, Cecil's wife, Cecil's son, and we're out there planting that vineyard. And so I think it took about a week to get all those grapevines planted. Then we turn on the irrigation system. And guess what? The weeds come up, huh? The weeds come up because the weeds end up being twice the size of little grape plants, huh? And the only way you can deal with those weeds when you have those little green grower grapevines is to pull them out. So it's all manual. And so I had put together a phone up at the vineyard. And on that little garage, I put a little pump house for the pump. And and like I say, I was a sales manager. So I would do my sales meetings on the phone up there and manage the workers pulling the weeds, because it's all manual work, huh? It's all manual, pulling all those weeds. And there we go. Now we get a whole year of growth. So now they're about twice as tall as they were when you planted them. And now you got to prune them back, huh? So, after almost a year of growing, you cut them all the way back and you hold your breath, huh? Are these things going to make it, right? Yeah. And then, then the next spring, then they spurt up, and now you gotta tie it down to tie the little vines to the grape stakes. And I mean, the whole process is a lot of manual labor, but you know what? It's actually a lot of fun, huh? You're working out in the outdoors, and you're investing in your own vineyard, and you're imagining how beautiful it's going to be 4 or 5 years from now. And there you go. And then after a couple of years, okay, you get a little bitty crop, okay, but that little bitty crop is not enough to pay for harvesting. You don't get enough grapes, so you kind of let that go. And then the third year, you get a crop that is worth picking, huh? So in the third year, we probably got, I don't know, maybe 3-4 tons of grapes, something like that. And then we made our first vintage. Cecil made the first vintage of Gewürztraminer. Then by the time you hit the 5th year, then you're getting probably 2 tons to the acre. So like 16 tons of grapes coming out of that 8 acres of grapes. And now the most we ever got was 64 tons, huh? That's how most that's the biggest.
That's a big crop.
That's a big crop.
Incredible.
64 tons. And the lowest was probably around 16 tons. And so then we worked with Cecil and ourselves, and we built that little vineyard up, and it was doing very good. Cecil was buying the grapes, and we were happy campers. Okay, then my parents retired, okay? And so I told them, why don't you guys just build a house on the vineyard, huh? Build a house on the vineyard, and then it's easy for you to take care of it as well. And so they did. So they built a house on the vineyard, and the best years of their life were living on that vineyard. And then, then my father passed away in 2001. And then a couple years later, the Deloche winery got into financial trouble, huh? So you had 9/11 happen, you had the dot-com crash happen, and his business got into financial trouble. So he had expanded a lot. He had three wineries, about 900 acres of grapes. So he decided to sell his name and his big winery, and then shrink down a little bit, and then he formed the Hook and Ladder Winery, huh? So
so he's the one that formed the Hook and Ladder. Now, he had a connection. Talk about Hook and Ladder a little bit, about the name and what that connection is. I think it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, so Cecil was a fireman in San Francisco. And he decided that he wanted to bring up his two boys in the country. He didn't want to bring them up in the city. So he bought a small plot of land, of contract for deed kind of thing that had some grapes on it. And that's how he got into the grape business. And he was a fantastic farmer. Cecil knew how to plant grapes. He knew exactly how to do it. He was very successful at it. And he was a very good winemaker, huh? So he had his talent for making wine and growing grapes, and expanded actually really fast in the late 70s through the 80s and the 90s. And at one point, I think his winery was producing 250 to 300,000 cases a year.
250 to 300,000 cases. That's a big enterprise. And so he funded that all through, by one little pot of land, and started growing it in that scale. And then, but eventually you said he got in trouble, and he came back and regrouped with Hook and Ladder, which is what I have in front of me today. So let's pivot to that a little bit and talk about how you got involved with that.
Okay, so we had been selling our grapes to Cecil for forever, huh? Then he got in financial trouble, sold his operation. We then we sold our grapes then to Alexander Valley Vineyards, okay? And then Cecil regrouped into Hook and Ladder. And then we started selling our grapes back to Cecil at Hook and Ladder Winery. And then Hook and Ladder was doing fine. And and then over time, the business got a little more complex. Cecil got a little bit older. Christine got a little bit older. The business got a little bit more complex. So then they asked me if I wanted to. Well, actually, I offered to put an investment into Hook and Ladder to expand or some of the varietals they were doing, and maybe add some more space to the tasting room and that kind of thing. And so they agreed, okay, yeah, no problem. We'd happy to get an investment. So I bought about 10% of the winery for about $1 million, I think. And then we had a little lull in the business. Okay, the cash flow dried up a little bit. So over time, I invested more, and then more. And then Cecil wanted to kind of disengage from the business. He was retiring, and he wanted to do gardening and other things. And so I ended up with 94% of the winery in the end.
So you own 94% of Hook and Ladder Winery. So what does it look like today? What does your little 9.2 acres look like in relation to his winery that you now own? What does that enterprise look like today?
Okay, so now the 9.2 acres has a house on it. My nephew Eric, he lives in the upstairs of the house, and when we're up there, we live in the downstairs. And the winery has about 180, 190 acres of grapes on probably 50 acres, something like that. And then we have some land on Chalk Hill in Healdsburg as well. And so you add it all up, and it's probably a couple hundred acres of grapes. And we have about 19 employees, and we can produce up to 25,000 cases a year. I think last year we sold about 14 or 15,000 cases, something like that. And and so our focus has been to move it from a distribution kind of a business to a direct consumer business. So over the last few years, we've invested in improving the space for tasting, improving our garden area so we could do a lot of outside stuff, and then redoing our tasting room, and then hosting events at the winery as well. And so, so we're maximum about 25,000 cases a year. We probably sell, say, between 14 and 20,000 cases a year.
And so Clint, when you take this winery, this enterprise you've grown, you want to move it more to a direct consumer business. Obviously, that wholesale price between the distribution and everything that goes with that obviously gets eaten up by middlemen and off-sale bottle places that sell it. And of course, that's the way it is. And I mean, at the same time, the grapes have what would I say, that it costs the same whether you're selling a $40 bottle of wine or a $20 bottle of wine. Your overhead's going to be what it's going to be. I'm going to kind of find it fascinating. We're going to go to the break, Clinton. I like to give our viewers a little bit of perspective. So your bottle says Sonoma County, Russian River, and Pinot Noir is what I have here, and I love it. You got a cowboy hat on the end of it with a hook. And so when I looked at it, and I live on a little ranch up by Washburn, and we've been old horse people, and it was just right up. And so I'm going like, that's right up my alley. And so we're going to go to the break. We come back. I want to talk about the geography, and because I'm a Pinot from Russian River, usually that's a good sign. And so I want to talk about that with you. So we've been talking to Clint Severson of Hook and Ladder Winery. I'm your host, Gary Emmett. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Scott Hinnon, host of the What's on Your Mind program on Beck TV now. From Baker, Montana to St. Cloud, Minnesota, and everywhere in between. We're looking forward to having a conversation with you about what matters most. We're talking to newsmakers, from members of Congress to the state legislature, and most importantly, the good folks that make up the great state of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana. Every single day, you get a chance to tell us what's on your mind. And now you can watch What's on Your Mind live on Beck TV. Tune in 10 a.m. live for What's on Your Mind.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
I'm Gary Emmett, host of Open Range. We've been at this for the past couple years. Representative Matt Heilman of Bismarck and former legislator Brandon Pritchard are going to do some regular segments on Open Range. While we cover a lot of politics, we're still going to be continue doing mostly all things North Dakota. One exception, Friday evening, I'll be doing a new show on Open Range called On the Horn. This show will be long interviews of 3 to 5 hours with the people I'm interviewing. They'll be airing week after week on that Friday evening. So thank you for being a part of the Beck TV and Open Range family.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Hey, I'm Corey Heppola, and I grew up in a small town.
This road used to be gravel.
But a long time ago, I left to live in a big city. Now, I wonder...
Just because we're small doesn't mean we can't have nice things.
What would it be like to move back?
Man, it's mad love up in here.
So, I'm traveling to different small towns across the Midwest to find out. Because what do I really know about rural living? Oh. The people.
If there is anything that you can say about this town, it's that we take care of each other.
The innovation.
So none of this equipment even existed.
And the opportunities.
It's like every year in the spring, there's always like a revitalization of just excitement.
This is my town.
Oh! Oh, jeez!
You're close.
7 episodes. Sunday night, 6:30 on Beck TV.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary. I'm going to talk to Clint Severson, who has a vineyard, a Hook and Ladder winery out in Sonoma County. I want to talk a little bit about it, about helping you understand Russian River. So for those of you that, if you get a Pinot Noir, which is a light grape, and many of you, if you've never seen the movie Sideways, it gets a little base, but it changed the world for Merlots. That was the hot wine to Pinot Noir. And one of my top movie scenes that I've seen is when they're talking about what a Pinot Noir grape is. I can't remember the actor, but it's unbelievable. And I'm going like the passion. And you know, everybody starts out drinking a sweet wine like white Zinfandel and it's pink and it's sweet and oh, it's so great. And after a while you're going like, it's kind of like sugary. And eventually you evolve to a more dry wine. And we'll do some more wine talking, especially when we get to your nephew Eric and understanding, you know, and do some virtual tastings. But let's talk about Russian River and the location where you're at. I mean, so sometimes, you know, sometimes being lucky is better than smart, right? And but being smart and working hard and lucky, that's how you end up with something like this, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we had this 8 acres planted in the Gewürztraminer. And by the way, Gewürztraminer grows very, very well in Sonoma County. But the demand for Gewürztraminer is a lot less than the demand for Pinot because Russian River Valley is known for the Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir, we have very warm afternoons and cool evenings, and cool mornings, and the Pinot Noir just grows fantastic in that area, and it's known for Pinot Noir. And so when you looked at where the demand was from the customer base, it was, hey, there's more demand for Pinot now than there is for Gewürztraminer, so maybe we ought to bud off some of your Gewürztraminer and graft on Pinots, So we did that. We graft on the Pinots, and yeah, it turns out that in our area, okay, on Olivet Road there in western Sonoma County, the Pinot is fantastic. The Pinot grows really well. And yeah, and so that's what we did. And so we ended up with about, I don't know, 30% of the vineyard in Gewürztraminer and 70% in Pinot. And yeah, and clearly when people come to this part of Sonoma County to taste, they mostly want to taste the Pinots because they're the best,
And a Pinot is a delicate grape, right? And it's got a nice cherry, nice hint flavor. It's more subtle. It's not like drinking a big Cabernet Sauvignon, right? And so, but I mean, it's a nice transition if you're not if you like a little sweetness. Not that it's sweet, but it doesn't have the intensity that I need when I like a big bold cab, and whether I'm eating a steak or just drinking it, I'll take it either way. But when you drink a Pinot Noir, it's just a little different, isn't it? So talk to us a little bit about a Pinot Noir grape and a Pinot Noir wine.
Yeah. Okay. So the Pinot Noir is lighter. It's got fewer tannins in it, and yeah, it goes great with lighter food. Okay. So like you can drink Pinot with any kind of poultry or pork or whatever. Pinot goes much better than, say, a heavy Cabernet. And now if you're going to have a filet mignon or something, you probably want a Cabernet. But Pinot kind of goes with pretty much everything, because it's not so intense. It's got fewer tannins in it, and it's got a very unique flavor that's very pleasant. And so, yeah, no, the Pinots are the Pinots are fantastic. Yeah.
So Clint, when did you decide that I'm done working for a chemical company or health industry, and I'm just going to be a vineyard? I mean, everybody, guys like myself, we would dream of having that life in the Sonoma. If you're out there in the fall and the summers, the weather's like, oh my gosh. I mean, so I don't know how you could ever leave that, but the idea of quitting your other job to do this, give us a little bit of how that worked out.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So now I have my vineyard. I have my job in a California-based company. I've done all this training, all this hard work, and now I'm ready to be an entrepreneur. I'm ready. So I'm looking for an opportunity in a startup. I want a startup. Bingo. One of the people that I worked with at Siva got an opportunity to work in a startup, and he called me and said, I need a sales and marketing guy. And so I took that job. Okay, bingo. We ended up selling the company to 3M. 3M asked me to stay and run the company. And so that was my first startup. Okay. And in the meantime, On the vineyard side, my parents retired. They moved up there. And then in the fall of the year during harvest, we'd go up and we'd pick the grapes, along with the other help that we had to harvest the grapes. And then in the springtime, we were there for when they were pruning the vineyard as well. And so so my work in the vineyard was probably much less then, because my focus was on my entrepreneurial endeavors,
So what you're telling me is you built your vineyard off your stock options in your startup, not off your grapes and the cash flow off your vineyard.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I was wondering if we were going to get to that, because I never knew your background. I was thinking, I'm pretty impressed at what you put together. So you were able to do that because, Silicon Valley, there's nothing like it in the world. For opportunities for entrepreneurs. I used to say when I lived out there in the late 90s, I said there was so much energy. This is before it melted down in 2000 or whatever that year was. I said, I think I could shut my car off, and the energy of all this entrepreneur mindset and energy of the people would just power my car down the freeway. You just had a different feeling, didn't it?
It's tons of opportunity, no doubt about it. And so I did my first startup, and we sold that to 3M. I ran that for a while. Then I got recruited to another startup, another diagnostic company. And I sold that to Hitachi, the big Japanese company. And then I got recruited to another startup that was the big winner. That was the company called Abaxis, a point-of-care blood chemistry company. And so that's where I made a lot of my money from the stock options, and gave me the opportunity to invest in the Hook and Ladder Winery. So when Cecil and his team were running low on expansion capital, I was able to step in and invest in Hook and Ladder. And then when Cecil stepped away, because he's now 87 years old, so he stepped away from the business, then I hired my nephew, Eric, who I'd worked with before in my last startup, to come in and run the winery. And that was a good opportunity for him to do something that was very challenging and a little bit different than what he'd done before. And he's doing a great job, So, yeah.
So Eric, I almost not, Clint, I was thinking your nephew, I'm going to have him back to do a wine, like I said, a virtual wine tasting. But the idea, I think we're going to have to do another show in the future when your schedule allows, to talk about entrepreneurships in Silicon Valley, because I spent a lot of time out there. And the fascinating mindset versus, I was a North Dakota kid, and I remember I had a friend, Henry Kissinger's brother, Walter, was a friend of mine. He bought some horses from us when I was living in Colorado in the mountains. And he said to me one day, we were talking about businesses, and I was talking about being a small entrepreneur in North Dakota. Every time you go start a new business, a grocery store, in my case, I'd do a personal guarantee. And he goes, no, that's not how you do that. He said, you're putting your family at risk every time you do a deal. I said, yeah, so what's what the banks want. He goes, no, if you got a good idea and you can do it, there's a lot of money looking for opportunity. And I'm thinking, I was 40 before I learned that. I said, I wish I'd have learned that in my 20s. And so I'd like to encourage some, we're going to talk about that in the future show, if I can get you back to talk about that for young people to understand the difference between those two mindsets.
Yep. No, absolutely. Happy to do it. Yep.
So Clint, I want to stay with the wine a little bit longer. So you have this vineyard, and you, at one point when you decided, did you ever decide to say, I'm going to move on to property and I'm going to do this full time, or did you just stay with your startups and it was always a side deal for you?
So this was a side deal. Actually, I had looked at expanding, doing more, planting more grapes, buying more land. But I ended up being focused on my entrepreneurial activities in Silicon Valley. I said, you know what, don't dilute it too much, And so I kind of just backed off from that. I figured, when I get done with my entrepreneurial activities, if I make some money, maybe I'll expand. Maybe I'll do something different. But I stayed engaged in the lifestyle. Really, that's what it is. It's a lifestyle. Wine is a lifestyle. Wine and food is a lifestyle. And and then when Cecil needed the help, Cecil Deloche needed the help, then I got actually much more involved in the business. And so The last startup I sold in 2018, and we got a nice premium, nice premium on that one. And so so I made a bunch of money, and I decided, okay, well, now's the time to retire, huh? So now I'm retired, and I can spend more time at the winery and coaching Eric and the team, Devin and Jason. So we got 3 young guys in their 40s running that business. And we get together about every 3 months for a board meeting. And so we're pretty much engaged in the wine business now.
So Clint, I just read recently about wine that because of Trump tariffs, we won't get into politics, but it's really hurt exporting wine to Canada. Big problem, big customer of the U.S. 2, you've had some great crops in California. And we only got about 30, 40 seconds, but it's going to be a difficult season the next year or 2 if we don't get things turned around in the wine business. Is that true?
It's true. We have overproduction of grapes, so the price of grapes has come down, and there are no government subsidies. There's no parity. There's none of that kind of stuff in the grape business. And so and people are drinking less wine. People are drinking less alcohol, less wine. And so the volume of wine going out of Sonoma County, Napa County is going down, while the production of grapes and the production of wine is going up. So it's a real challenge. It's a challenging business environment. Yeah.
So Clint, I probably going to have you back again to talk further because we want to. I'm going to have your nephew back, but I think there's some really important life lessons there. And it probably is a good time if you have a wine cellar to start storing up and banking some good wine in your cellar because there's going to be some good buys out there. So Clint, thank you for joining us on Open Range. Can we quickly put up the website real quick just so people know how to get a hold of Clint if they want to buy some wine here at Hook and Ladder. So this is out in Sonoma County, hookandladderwinery.com. Clint, thank you for joining us here on Open Range. We'll have you back again, all right?
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Right. Thank you. So we've been talking to Clint Severson, proprietor, vineyard, winery maker, Sonoma County. I'm your host, Gary Emna. Thanks for watching.
Buffalo Gypsy Boutique of Mandan is where classy meets Wild West. Our clothing, decor, and gifts range from sophisticated boho style to quirky and antique. And we have the whole family covered, right down to the little ones. We're home to exclusive brands such as Scully, Old Gringo, and Tanner Mark Leather. And we proudly feature American-made jewelry, artwork, and genuine Kimes denim. Find Buffalo Gypsy classing up the corner of 1st and Main in Mandan.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
I'm Corey Heppola, and a long time ago I left my small town for a big city. Now I wonder, what would it be like to move rural?
Just because we're small doesn't mean we can't have nice things.
This is my town.
Man, it's mad love up in here.
Sunday night, 6:30 on Beck TV.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.